Hooray.
Dr. Julian Neil.
Hi, Dr. Hunter.
We
How
have
are you?
transcended the vagaries of communication to join each other from all sorts of different places. How are you?
I am excellent. How are you?
I'm fine. And behind me is a beautiful, probably coming out at the top of my head, is a beautiful orchid in celebration of you. How about that?
Thank you.
An orchid maestro. So for everybody who's joining us, and thank you so very much. And this will be recorded, and you can review it whenever. I am joyful and blessed, as are all of we, to have Dr. Julian Neil, who is absolutely one of the most genius, I think, formulators, never mind naturopaths, never mind, he can run down all the other very spectacular things that he does for patients. But we are here specifically today because we're going to talk about scalp and hair challenges, because it is an increasingly huge problem in today's world. People are so stressed, COVID, the market melting down, the world melting down, Armageddon, whatever's happening. And so we want to talk about the medical things as well as the stress related things, because with your fund of knowledge from the naturopathic and herbal, I mean, no one knows herbs and no one knows formulating for both health and beauty and hair health. And give us a little rundown about how you ended up with these hair products, which we're going to talk about specifically, and how to use them and what they treat, because I use them so much in my practice, and around the world people are profiting from them. But give us a little background of how many years you've been involved in formulating for hair restoration and preservation and seborrheic dermatitis, plaque psoriasis, dandruff. And we specifically want to do that. We've got to keep it to a little bit less than an hour, so I'll stop talking.
Okay. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, by the way. I appreciate that a lot. I'm always in awe of your genius and how well
we're
you...
mutual admirers, but we'll move on from there. Yeah.
I've been, the hair products have been in process for literally 32 years. It started with my cancer patients that could not have chemicals on their hair. I mean, people don't realize what you put. The skin is a sponge. I always say you put an essential oil on your ankle, it'll show up in a hair analysis at 20 minutes later. So your skin is a sponge, and what we put on the scalp and the hair goes directly into the body. And so it started with that. I know you know that. And it really took, the products took a big jump when I took a yogic retreat to Iceland. And I went to a cancer clinic in Iceland that was doing a lot of work. This is back in the early 90s. If you remember, shark cartilage was a big thing for cancer, and shark oil. And they were doing a lot of work with that. And so I went to the clinic, but what I saw was they had severely disabled people who were crippled from arthritis and things like that. And they would get into the volcanic clay that they had in Iceland. And about 20 minutes later, they'd come out and they'd be able to move and so on, as if nothing was wrong with them. Of course, over time, their metabolic function would create the same toxic environment that would cause the imbalance again. But it brought home that for hair care, like anything else in the body, we have to deal with four things. The blood has to bring to every cell. It has to bring oxygen, it has to bring hydration, it has to bring nutrients. And the most important thing is it has to remove the waste. If it cannot remove the waste, it cannot oxygenate, hydrate, or maintain or absorb the nutrients. So that changed the product a great deal. And because I found a lot of kelp, algae for oxygen, antioxidant, phytonutrients. Kelp and algae are the most nutrient dense plants on the planet, and they're the only plants that supply vitamin B. And we were talking about the nervous system. I have a blog on the naturopathic website about how hair is an extension of your nervous.
And tell us the name. Look, let's specifically so people can go to your website as well, because it is full of information. Give us your website name.
The neilnaturopathic.com.
Okay. And then, look, let's also talk about all the conditions. So there's been a conflagration and an accumulation of wisdom, which we all blessedly do if we have consciousness over the years, and serendipitous events like going to Iceland for your yoga retreat and meeting these people and just observing what made people almost miraculously better, understanding that, you've got to do. And this is one of the things we need to emphasize, is because people think when we make them well and we cure them, whether it be for beauty or skin or hair or whatever, it's an ongoing process. We can't suspend them in time. The toxic environment still exists. The stress still exists. The challenges to the stem cells in the hair follicles, the lymphatics, the venous and arterial supply and drainage, it's ongoing, which is why we have to do this forever and not go back to return to using things that at best don't work, or at worst are full of toxic ingredients that are further poisoning them internally, as well as their follicles, their scalp, their hair, etc. Talk a little bit about all the conditions that you set out, and I can testify to the fact that, look, I've used plenty of, against my will, but used plenty of pharmaceuticals to treat all sorts of, as I've mentioned, seborrheic dermatitis, where it's these plaques that people get that are raw, that basically peel, and they have those. Let's talk about, first of all, why do people get some of those, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, we have to look at diet. We have to look at diet as
food is your medicine. Yeah.
Right. Food for healing. And most people don't think that way. So what we eat, we often develop a fungus on the hair. Your hair is one of the dirtiest places on the body, because I always say 2 pounds, minimum, 2 pounds of waste material come out of the skin every day, minimum. So your scalp is perspiring and dead skin cells. It's got sebum, oils. Your hair itself is protecting the eyes, the nose, the mouth by picking up environmental toxins. It's sweeping the environment like a broom. And so the moisture and sweat and so on builds up, and that creates conditions either for fungus, bacteria, or it's not getting enough, or it's not getting UV protection. are outside, we need that as well. And so these conditions form from unhealthy, demineralized, devitalized cell tissues.
So the other thing is, look, I've seen for years genetically, and I find increasingly genetics are really a huge and vital and almost primary issue. People who have metabolic syndrome, people who have a very small amount of toxicity that their body can handle because they're missing enzymes, they're missing whatever, they're born without them. The people who, they eat, and it's interesting, they don't have some of these hair conditions, skin conditions, hair conditions as they first go through life, but they accumulate an increasing amount of toxicity. And then all of a sudden you start seeing them have dandruff, seborrheic dermatitis, psoriasis that becomes plaque psoriasis in some people with those plaques in their head as well. Same thing with people who have eczema and diet. I mean, I have patients who they come in, they had a wild weekend, or they had hedonism, or they just, look like we all do. We're only human. They ate this, that, and the other that weekend, wine, whatever. Not that any of us are anti anything. We're just pro health more than anything. And, their seborrheic dermatitis, their eczema, their dandruff exacerbated. I mean, after that weekend. So yes, fungus, sweet. Some of us can eat and do whatever. Other people can look at pictures of it and can't. But most importantly, what I've found with these products that you formulated, and let's specifically go through them, is that despite that, and this is what matters, is you're giving people solutions. I'm informing people. You're giving people with these hair formulas solutions that, despite being human and having, a fun weekend and whatever, overall, it still keeps them from breaking out with those conditions. It manages them, it controls them, and over time helps keep them from having them. Do you agree and find that for your practice and for you as well, for everybody you deal with worldwide as well?
Absolutely. As you say, genetics, very important. Certainly for things like eczema, people who had asthma as a child, things like that. They're just more prone for these things, But as you say, metabolic syndrome. But nutrition is cumulative and toxicity is cumulative. And so they do build up, but these products are the most effective topical treatment you can use for just if you want the most natural, beautiful, shiny, flowing hair. But if you've got dandruff, eczema, psoriasis, plaque psoriasis, seborrheic dermatitis, then my root and scalp formula is for you.
Absolutely. It's medical strength. It replaces nystatin and all these products that have been the only thing that we could give to people, which never worked. Okay. And particularly for dandruff, I never want to see another bottle of Head and Shoulders in my life because it's filled with toxicity. And so your root and scalp formula, and I also with your acceleration formula, look, I say to people, save your toxicity. There's no real non-toxic hair dye. And so save your toxicity for hair dye if push comes to shove, depending on what you want to do. But your acceleration formula, I tell people, for helping clean the hair follicle, never mind the scalp, to help stimulate hair growth, to help stimulate lymphatic drainage. And because people don't understand that the hair follicle is really deep in your And so I find that acceleration formula makes everybody's hair, for people who don't have the dandruffs, the plaque psoriasis, etc., that makes everybody's hair and your conditioner much more manageable. Look, we can talk about all the different causes of things, but what about the restorative conditioner versus the finishing formula?
So the restorative formula, our conditioner is different than any other conditioner on the market, because every conditioner has some form of chemical, bohemium trimonium chloride or something like that, which is waxy coating that coats your hair. Wash your hair follicles themselves, if you look under a microscope, spread out like a Christmas tree. And then what we want conditioners to do is to smooth those ends out and make it stay together and give it shine and luster. But it's all art, and it's a coating. And that coating also builds up on your scalp. So now it's blocking oxygenation and the
breathing and excretion of toxins which go into your hair.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, all right, let's also talk about, and then we'll go, because I know people are keen to hear this as well, and we'll discuss this. I want to talk about your tonic shampoos, your tonic conditioners, you've got some tonics, okay, that also go along. Why should people use some of these tonics?
Well, we call them all tonics, the shampoos and the conditioners. But are you talking about the hair oils, the separate?
Yeah, the hair oils. What about those? Because for somebody who has wild and unruly hair, what about the hair oils?
So I have two hair oils. One is elixir oil, and the base of elixir oil is amaranth oil. And amaranth oil is not only one of the richest oils in squalene, which is a natural substance that brings youth and suppleness and moisturizing, and so helpful. But it also deeply penetrating oil, and it's a carrier oil, so it brings other oils deeply to the roots and to affect growth. And so all your oils are organically grown and sustainably sourced. And so in the elixir oil, there's oil, which was known as the timber of the gods. It's one of the cleansing, purging, detoxifying oils there are clary sage, rosemary, peppermint. So again, the concept is to bring peppermint, to bring blood to the hair.
Yeah, stimulate the hair follicle. Yeah,
exactly. And so what that's doing is clearing the scalp and stimulating and feeding the roots itself. And then and so we have a scalp massager made of organic sandalwood. And so really the protocol is to put the elixir on. It's a pre-treatment, or I certainly use it on my scalp now that I shaved my head. But you would put that elixir oil on scalp with the massager, wait a little while, let it absorb. You go use one of the shampoos, whichever one, and the conditioner, and then afterwards the ocean oil, and that has argan oil as the base. Again, all organically, sustainably sourced, and that smooth frizz, it stimulates and strengthens the hair follicle itself. It produces elasticity. So it's a great, again, finishing product put through the hair, aside from all the aromatherapy.
Well, so the clary sage, the rosemary, all those things are incredibly antifungal
Right.
from my point of view, and cleansing, keeping that hair follicle, and women in particular, well, and men are nowadays as well, putting so much product on their hair, and everything, single thing that you put on your hair is going into that scalp, penetrating, going into the follicle itself, the actual hole that the hair's in, gets down to a certain extent to the follicle. And so all those things are very detoxifying. You put those on, cleansing, as you were recounting some of those ingredients, particularly the rosemary, the clary sage, this is the whole group of them. That
good peppermint, yeah,
the peppermint. I mean, that's stimulating blood flow, and people don't recognize how they need, especially after they've had their hair colored, whatever. All that color, all those chemicals go down into the actual follicles, and it shrinks, and it basically look, your hair follicles are shrinking anyway as we go down the path of life. The stem
and we
cells
lose
not,
on.
yeah. So putting those tonics on and then using your hair formula, I mean, the shampoo, look, I use religiously, and I give it when I take, instead of going to people's houses and taking, you know, a bottle of wine or whatever you take when you go to dinner with people, I'll take them your acceleration formula if I know they've got something. So I suggest to people the greatest gift of love is the gift of health and beauty. So these are the sort of things that you take to get people educated on the path of, you know, what are products that are worth, that you can trust, that you can invest your time in. And there's a huge amount of expertise and knowledge and experience that it works, because we're using it as well as a lot of other people on patients who have skin diseases, hair diseases. And let's go for a second to talk about, look, one of the things that people always want to know, what are the causes of hair loss? From your point of view, tell me women who lose their hair, and how do you approach that? Because that's a huge problem in today's world with all the different things people are enduring. So let's talk about that for a second.
Well, again, you know, for men, first, very simply, you know, the DHT, testosterone converts to DHT. The DHT attacks the hair follicles. And that's male pattern baldness. There are things you can do to help protect it. So, for example, in both of my shampoos, I have stinging nettle. Stinging nettle has has an ingredient in it that helped 5-alpha reductase that, you know, it inhibits that production of THC to DHT, so it prevents THC from the DHT from attacking your hair follicles when you.
And you see that in women as well.
Absolutely, it's in women as well. Women, I find, more stress makes their hair fall out.
Yeah.
But the DHT is also a factor as they change hormonally. Also, that becomes.
I see that a lot doing blood tests, and look again with your products. I mean, look, people. What are the causes of hair loss that I look at? Is number one, low iron, and people. I mean, you and I can go on till the cows come home about, you know, their gut being inflamed, all sorts of things. Their iron is low for whatever reason, blood loss, or their gut's inflamed, etc. And that you've just got to replace the iron. But again, those follicles have had an insult. And everything that you do by, number one, not using toxic ingredients, number two, by using things like the root and scalp or the acceleration and the tonics, are helping stimulate those hair follicles to come back. Just like after COVID, people will tell you they start losing their hair, or they temporarily will lose it. It's because they've had that inflammatory insult to their hair follicles. So if you're using the things that are cleaning it out and stimulating it, you're helping ameliorating the stem cells and the whole hair follicle issue to keep making robust each hair being uh, uh, strong hair.
Right. And again, from COVID, we saw a lot of hair loss because of the fevers. Again, affecting the nervous system. It is the inflammation. But the hair follicle itself is mostly made up of keratin, sulfur, iron, and silicon. And what makes it again, I say the feeling, your hair doesn't have nerves, but of course it's got nerves around the root itself and the base of the follicle. So, but it's your hair is the feeling part of your body because of how much silicon it has in it. Silicon is the feeling element of the spine and the hair follicle. That's why I say the hair is an extension of the nervous system. Certainly in Eastern culture, they don't, in certain things, they tie the hair up, yogis, and they grow the hair long. That was always taught, to grow the hair long. It balances the nervous system, keeping a lot of silicon, sulfur, and iron in the body.
The other thing is, look, there are a lot of women, and this is another thing I see for hair loss. Look, women increasingly wear extensions. That's a huge issue nowadays for hair loss. You see in certain cultures, they braid and they have these tight braids that are pulling on these little hairs, and it's putting traction on that hair follicle, which is decreasing the blood supply, the lymphatics, the venous, the blood, the outflow blood supply. And again, you need to be maximally stimulating those hair follicles because you are decreasing the blood supply, the essence to that hair follicle. So
Right.
More reason.
Right. I think women suffer, again, as you say, hair loss too, because they dye their hair, they apply heat to the hair, they're blow drying their hair, again, pulling it, doing all kinds of things which are damaging.
And the scalp, it's
depleting.
damaging the scalp is just skin from my point of view. And so when you're putting all that heat and whatever, that's why you need some of those tonics that you've got, those individual tonics, because you need to treat the scalp just like you put my skin products or whatever on your skin to nurture it, feed it, and to help it recuperate from all that the onslaught of day to day.
Right. I use the two analogies with hair. One is your teeth. You only get one set of, again, if your root is alive, and I say that people who have lost their hair, if your root is alive and you're not suffering from a scalp problem, that then my acceleration will grow your hair. My acceleration tonic will grow your hair. If the root is dead, nothing's going to grow your hair but a transplant, and that's true for you. If your tooth is dead, you're not going to grow another. And the same way the tooth sits in the gums, and you have to take care of the gums to have good teeth, the same is true with your hair. You have to take care of that scalp in order for your hair to flourish, just like a plant. Plant needs good soil, nutrition, sunshine, and hydration. And your hair needs the same. It needs nutrients, oxygen, moisturizing, and again, removing waste, soil that's clean.
Internally and externally, I might editorialize, which I'm sure you'll agree with me on that one.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's the other thing, and I'm looking at the questions. I put on my glasses, look at the questions every now and then. So one of the things that people talk about with hair loss nowadays that they've found is that people's scalp, particularly men, lose their hair as well because the scalp fibroses. And in women, with alopecia areata, where nobody knows, why do they have this? Is it genetic programming to self-destruct, or, you know, did they have some fever, insult, or, you know, some people are more sensitive to anything. But so with the fibrosis of the scalp that's causing hair loss increasingly, or is contributing, or they found is causing it, your root and scalp formula, your tonics, would they go to root and scalp? Would they go to acceleration? What would they do to
Well,
help?
if they have that fibrosis, they'd want the elixir oil, which is the, you know, again, the hair.
Stimulating, very stimulating.
Yeah, and it would
Yeah.
also soften and relax the scalp and restore the scalp. The other thing they can do, let me jump back. There's a concept of mind shampoos that some people don't like because of time or because of other things, but I recommend that you wash your hair every day. And I know people go, I don't have time to wash my hair every day, especially women with a lot of things. And so ideally, you wash your body every day, you brush your teeth, hopefully after you eat, you know, you meditate, clean your mind, you have all that we clean. But again, people go days and days without washing their hair. And that's a difficult thing to find right. So again, because nutrition is cumulative, the more things we put on. But sometimes when people are losing their hair because they fried their hair, or they fried their scalp, or demineralized it or devitalized it through these various things, I tell them to start using the lightweight conditioner as a shampoo. And all my shampoos and conditioners, to get optimum benefit, you need to leave them on. So when you shampoo, most people are used to shampooing and then they rinse the shampoo off and then they put a conditioner on and then they let the conditioner on the body. Mine is, it's the opposite. It's an addition. The most important thing is to let the shampoo sit on the hair and the scalp. Then wash your body, take a minute or two, really let it sit there so it can absorb in there. But for some people, and then you do the thing with the conditioner. But we found that with, again, mostly women who have dyed their hair for a long time and it's really fried and dry and they want it back, the shampoo sometimes is even too much nutrition for it. We have to calm it down. We have to soothe it with the conditioner first. And the conditioner won't, last is not important, but it will cleanse and it will nutrient fried hair. So that's true also when you have fibrosis, that same kind of dryness. And
So, look, I'm certainly one of those women who doesn't have time to wash this big mop of hair on a regular basis. I try to brush it. I try to massage my scalp, There's those people who, look, particularly, for instance, African-American, there's people who have hair that seems really dry. Now, part of that could be, number one, and you comment on this, is that their adrenals are low, they're not eating enough oils. Again, food is your medicine. You're not drinking enough water. You're all stressed out. You're dehydrated. You need your adrenals. Your thyroid's low. Somebody asked a question about how do you know if your hair follicle is dead, that it's not coming back? What do you tell people? I can tell people what I say, but what do you tell people about that? That it's, it's hopeless. I mean, it's never hopeless in the sense that you're treating your scalp no matter what. You've got good things that are absorbing into your body. But when do you know that hair follicle is not coming back?
Well, again, for me, if you're using certainly both the elixir oil and the the root and scalp formula or acceleration formula, there's no scalp issue. And the hair is not growing, it's probably dead.
Yeah, I find that I say to people, look, you give it, I mean, look, I give everything 3 months, but if the hair's not growing, I mean, usually we treat their adrenals in a month, it comes back. You treat their thyroid in a month or a month-ish, okay? It comes back. They eat olive oil. They drink water. They're exercising to get the oxygenation. They're putting some of your tonics that are stimulating, you know, your products that are stimulating, and you're doing, but if no hair is growing, okay, now what about those people, look, as far as who don't wash their hair on a regular basis, number one is there's the time issue, of course, and
Yeah.
look, we all try to brush it, we all try to massage our scalps, etc. But people who have dry ends of their hair and but their scalp is oily. Let's discuss that. What do they do for that?
Well, again, all my products are designed to, they have what I call the Trinity oils: hemp seed oil, olive oil, apricot kernel oil. These are regulatory agents of sebum release and removal. And so the beauty of the products is they're made for the individual. So everybody will benefit because every body is different. Everybody needs something different. But so some people are, some people don't have enough oil, but those oils themselves, along with so many other ingredients, will balance again the sebum production and the sebum excretion. So that's
they're as bespoke as they can be, and also
oil,
you'll see
my potion oil fixes split ends and dry ends. So that's the finishing oil afterward.
Okay, so with people who have dry ends, okay, a lot of that, look, is, and again, it's why we both agree that from health comes beauty, whether it be hair beauty or skin beauty, that number one is, look, internally really matters. And that's not just taking things, it's also detoxification, which comes from any number of ways. And what we're doing with the scalp products and hair products is we're trying to detoxify on every level, feed, like the food truck comes up and puts it into the scalp, which is more likely to osmose and to go down to the follicle and get to the stem cells. But we've got to do the stem cells as well. So when people are dry on the ends,
well,
oily on the surface, does that mean their adrenals are low? And yes, we can treat it on the outside, but usually when the skin is oily, the hair is oily because people are stressed out, their testosterone is high, their DHEA is high, you know, they're stressed, it's genetics to a certain extent, they're toxic, whatever. But it's imperative to put the things on the surface, just like skin products, as well as internals and exercise, and you are what you eat.
Exactly. I couldn't say it better. That's exactly right. You need external, the topical things, but you have to also focus on everything you're doing with life and your body.
Okay, so one of the things that I want to emphasize in all of this is, look, the dandruff, the scalp conditions. Yes, genetics certainly contribute to it in some people. Again, diet, we both absolutely agree. But what you put on the surface, just doing things right internally, is not going, in a lot of people who have the genetic challenges, the eczemas, the psoriasis, the metabolic syndrome, where their sugar's high practically no matter what we do. They just look at a picture of something with sugar in it or carbs, and their sugar gets high, and they break out then in dandruff, which is seborrheic dermatitis.
Mhm.
Those people, absolutely, I found nothing works better than your root and scalp. And then for just general health, preservation, because I'm all about prevention and preservation, as are you. The acceleration formula, the conditioners, and just like we put mask on our face and we do our body, whatever the skin is, and we're doing things like tretinoin, retinoic acid, my vitamin A plus, whatever, vitamin C, whatever. Your tonics are the same thing, but specifically for the scalp. And from my point of view, if they come down over the skin, fabulous. It's only better for your skin as well, with stimulating blood flow,
Yep.
detoxification, drawing things out. Am I right on that?
Absolutely right. And again, we're sort of, I always recommend when using them to use them as a mini mask. Why I say leave it on, but you certainly can use it as a mask. And again, for dry and so on, the conditioners, both of them, the lightweight conditioner is for thin and fine hair.
So it's just lighter. So I can
Yeah.
still have my wild hair if I use the light conditioner. I find.
Right.
Yeah.
Both conditioners can be leave-in, but the restorative is a little heavier. So I say to people, you don't have to worry about washing it out, because it actually, again, the difference between our conditioners and others is others coat it, ours absorb into the hair follicle itself. So it.
And what about the hair shaft?
The shaft root, it absorbs into everything. So it relaxes it, it neutralifies it, it smooths it, it hydrates it. It's got humectants and emollients in it. So it's moisturizing and and again, the products are designed for the individual, and I'll get into lather in a second, but so it will, the body, so the conditioners will, your hair will take what it needs and the rest will go. But when you leave it on, it's almost like when you water a plant, it's saturated, water will run through the bottom. But if you wait a little while and water it again, it'll take a little more water. The hair,
or it absorbs from the bottom. Yeah.
Right. And the hair is the same way. That's why I say you can leave those conditioners on a little bit, and it will keep absorbing over and moisturizing and protecting you. All the conditioners have UV protection and scalp protection as well as hair protection.
Okay, so I have a question that I just thought about. This is certainly from the woman's point of view. Look, a lot of women who have curly hair, they straighten their hair and they use a lot of toxic things to uncurl, and it's really drying to the hair. And I see that those women, their hair often thins. I mean, doing, for instance, your finishing or your restorative conditioner, and maybe can you mix at the same time and put a tonic on there and like put a shower cap on, leave it on, walk around for 30 minutes, just like you use with my exfoliating repair, and do that. And then you could wash it off if you want to style it in a particular way that, you want it to be a little bit different.
Yes, that's what I was saying. We use a mini mask when we wash, but you can use them as a mask. You can use the root and scalp with severe problems as a mask, the acceleration for growth as a mask, and certain conditioners, the restorative and the finisher, the lightweight conditioner.
And likewise, you just reminded me, look, with the root and scalp formula, if you've got this plaque psoriasis and dandruff that's chronic dandruff, seborrheic dermatitis, all these things that people loathe and we struggle to cure for them. That's the other thing. Put on the root and scalp formula, leave it on because you feel it penetrate into your scalp. You feel it. And put it on, put a shower cap on, or just walk around with it and then go back and wash it out and finish your shower after 30 minutes or whatever. If you could do that whenever you can do it, whenever your schedule allows, that makes it even more therapeutic.
Yeah, all the ingredients. I mean, again, we have no chemicals whatsoever, no dyes, phthalates, no formaldehyde donors. There's nothing.
No sodium lauryl sulfates. I loathe them. Yeah.
Everything in there has been used both cosmetically and medicinally for centuries. Centuries. The cleansers themselves, the yucca quillea and the tea sepinum, have so many antioxidants. They all were used in sacred rituals by earth-honoring tribes, again, for centuries. The hemp seed oil, the apricot kernel oil, the ylang ylang, you know, Cleopatra and Queen Sheba were using these for beauty and healing, both, again, cosmetic and medicinal. So everything in the products are sacred. They were used in sacred rituals, and they come from nature. There is nothing on the planet. Hippocrates used Swedish pine tar 2,000 years ago. He talked about pine tar for eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis. So we are using Swedish pine tar plus bird fruit. There's nothing better than a combination of Swedish pine tar and burdock.
Burdock, yeah. So the other thing is, I want to interrupt you 1 second because I want to bring this point to everybody's knowledge base, and that is, so what's the toxic that traditional dermatology has used forever that is carcinogenic is coal tar. And that's what they put on people's heads and bodies to deal with the seborrheic dermatitis, etc. Pine tar is the non-toxic, incredibly therapeutic alternative to coal tar, which no one should use.
Yeah, and again, pine tar moisturizes, it sensitizes, it cleans, it balances the sebum. There's nothing that takes away the irritation, inflammation. It's antibacterial, antimicrobial,
antifungal, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And many of the oil products, if you go to the ingredient glossary on my website, on the Neil Naturopathic website, you'll see, you can read about every ingredient in it is therapeutic. Every single one. There is nothing in it that does not have a therapeutic purpose.
Okay, so look, we got to wrap this up. So you are for, preventing, reversing, and treating hair and scalp conditions. Is there anything that we've neglected to talk about? One of the things, people who have drier hair, I think we've addressed that. African American people who have curlier, more wiry hair, you've talked about what your products do and why they can still wash their hair as often as they want without drying it out.
Yep.
Is there anything that we need to add in the next minute or so that we've forgotten to include for what our subject matter is, and that will help people know everything they need to know in order to have the best head of hair that they can, no matter what?
I don't know that we missed something, but I will say that, again, on my website, there's the 14-day hair activation series. So, and it talks about, again, holistically, doing things to treat your hair, the foods you could eat to increase, the silicon and sulfur in your body, and things like that, exercises. So that's something that they can do.
Well,
Go
so thank you. First of all, listen, you and I are going to continue these conversations about the healthy practitioner who goes on the journey of having to deal with traditional medicine as well. But
Yes.
at the end of the day, we are all so blessed to access, and thank you so infinitely, immeasurably, as I like to say, for letting us access a millifraction of what I know you know, because he's also got all sorts of herbal, he's got an herbal solution and a solution, a formulation solution for so much. So thank you infinitely for letting everybody profit from your expertise.
Well, thank you for letting me be here and to serve. It's been an honor always.
And if there are questions, they can go on your website for you, for me, and thank you. I hope this has been educational for everybody, because we've certainly done our best for that to be the case.
Yes, absolutely. We have. Great to see you.
Thank you to everyone. Love and blessings to all of us, and to this world we live in. So thank you, and we'll be back soon.